is Winnie and she is
Nadia.
Welcome back at our book talk show Money Money, where we get students to discuss about a book based on their understanding. Today here with us several students from IPMI International Business School. Please introduce yourself, guys.
Thank you, Winnie. Hello, my name is Imar.
Hello, my name is Aditya Talia.
Hello, my name is Tesla. And I'm Isha.
Okay, so today the book that we will discuss is titled The Death of Money, The Coming Collapse of the International Monetary System by James Rickards. It is actually a book on economics and management published in 2014. So, do you guys want to share more about James Rickards, or have you guys read any other books from him?
Yes, I actually have. He also released a book called Currency Wars, The Making of the Next Global Crisis, where he argued that currency wars are not only an economic or monetary concern, but also a national security concern. In my opinion, he is a multidisciplinary professional. He is also an American lawyer, investment advisor, economist, speaker, gold speculator, media commentator, authority on matters of finance and economics, and he is also a precious metals expert.
Also, I would like to add that he seems to be someone who is deeply concerned about dollar and the international financial situation. The Death of Money talk about the potential collapse of the international monetary system due to the loss of confidence in the dollar. And also, the author also noted that he believed that the loss of confidence in the dollar can lead to potential collapse of the international monetary system, because there is no other currency that can take place of the dollar as the world's reserve currency.
That's right. I was just about to ask Adinda to give a glimpse of the book, and she has given her summary precisely. And in my opinion, James is actually a point because international monetary system has collapsed 3 times previously. We will discuss our own opinion on this later on, but let's move on to discuss on the content of the book itself. As we all know, James actually divided the book into 3 parts. Firstly, money and the market. Secondly, money and geopolitics. And lastly, money and wealth.
Okay, so do you guys remember about the 9/11 or 11 September terrorist attack? Prior to reading this book, is any of you aware of the news on market evidence surrounding the 9/11 attack, showing the possible connection between the terror and the trading, as James mentioned in this book?
But were you surprised though when James actually discussed about this topic here?
I was actually quite surprised when James mentioned how, despite the official denial, proof of the terrorist trading connection is found through a deeper dive into the world of forensics and the phenomenon of signal amplification. And that most literature on this topic is emphatically of the view that the pre-9/11 option trading was based on inside information, prompting CIA to begin Project Prophecy to create a threat board of potential targets for terrorist attacks and link those targets to publicly traded stocks that might provide advance warning through unusual price activity.
Yes, this incident shows that how unusual price activity can have a lot of reasons, but at the same time show that the authorities can actually devise systems for early warning of attacks on the US dollar and on efforts to crash the US markets, or basically financial wars, what they are trying to develop with market.
Talking about financial war, James mentioned that financial war has the purpose to degrade the enemies as well as seeking geopolitical advantage from the target. And it's also said that even though the attacker may incur a lot of costs, but if it brings financial catastrophe to the target, it's considered success. Do you guys remember the 1997 Asian financial crisis? James actually implied that the main distress that caused a lot of damage during that time is because these Western bankers, right, they pull out hot money from the emerging market in Asia. And to make it worse, right, IMF actually gave kind of not really good financial advice, and it wasn't a situation. So James kind of suggested that is a Western plot to destabilize the economy in Asia. What do you think of this?
I can understand his suggestion that wealth destruction through a market attack can be more effective than seeking enemy ships when it comes to disabling an opponent, and that financial war is the future of warfare. However, it is very difficult to conclude that the Asian financial crisis was a Western plot, as, in my opinion, it was actually an understandable action from the Western bankers for fear of potential losses after being triggered by the collapse of BAT. Isn't it a human tendency to react that way out of fear?
So, financial war is the future of the warfare. And that sounds scary yet imminent, right? Moving on to the second part of the book, James actually discussed about money and markets. And he started by declaring about the ruin of the market. Is there any one of you guys here that actually can summarize about this issue?
Okay, so James was whispering about the influence of other party on the markets, on the market force, which leads to destruction of market. Central bankers control the price of money, and therefore they influence every market in the world today. Central bankers will also carefully monitor the measures of inflation, unemployment, income, and other indicators on which to make policy decisions. Policymakers respond to economic distress by pursuing policies designed to improve the data. However, after a while, the data themselves may come to reflect not the fundamental economic reality, but cosmetically induced policy result. If these data then guide the next dose of policy, the central banker has entered a wilderness of mirrors in which the false signals induce policy, which induces more false signals and more policy manipulation, and so on.
To add on, the example mentioned was the export of inflation from the US to its trading partners through the exchange rate mechanism. Trading partners of the US, such as China and Brazil, wanted to promote their export by preventing their currencies from appreciating relative to the US dollar. As the Fed prints dollars, these trading partners must expand their own money supplies to soak up the dollar flow coming into their economies in the form of trade surpluses or investment. These local money printing policies cause inflation in the trading partner economies. US inflation is muted because Americans import cheap goods from their trading partners. In short, the world wants to deflate while governments want to inflate. Neither force will relent, so the pressure between them will continue to build. It is just a matter of time before the economy experiences more than just bubbles, but an earthquake that will lead to market collapse.
It sounds like a vicious cycle. How the policies meant to improve the situation end up inducing a false signals on which the government then act on. But will this eventually kill the market? It is something to ponder. Next, when talking about market, undeniably we cannot skip China, right? Because China is actually a fast growing market that has strengthened US position as the biggest economy of the world. In this book, what does James talk about this issue?
It estimated in the not so distant future, the Chinese economy will surpass that of the United States in total output. However, there is also a suggestion that China needs to rebalance its economy away from investment toward consumption. Rebalancing will require a combination of higher household income and a lower savings rate. The resulting disposable income can then go into spending on goods and services. However, the Chinese workforce is now dominated by workers in the middle years who maintain the high savings rate in order to afford additional consumption in later life. As a result, China may end up with high savings rate until 2030, slowing down its own economic growth.
Other than China, James also took interest in the European market, especially Germany, after the emergence of Berlin Consensus. So, what is Berlin Consensus and its implication?
So, according to James, with the German leadership and foresight, the European Union motto, which is United in Diversity, will be realized in its truest form and bring positive change to the global market. However, other than China and Germany, we should not forget about the other blocs or economies of the countries mentioned by James in his book, which is the BRICS, BELS, and GIIPS. Today, the global BRICs footprint in terms of territory, population, output, natural resources, and financial reserves is impossible to ignore, and it casts doubt on the US dollar's future as the world's leading reserve currency.
Okay, so what James was trying to say is that the emergence of this growing economy is actually a catalyst of the demise of dollar, isn't it? I think it's a kind of new perspective, but let's move on first. Let's discuss the next part of the book, which I think is very interesting because it talks about money and wealth. And in this part, James gives a new perspective of this money and wealth itself.
I agree with you. James gave a new idea of what the dollar is. He said that the dollar is a debt, or to be exact, a perpetual, non-interest bearing note issued by the Fed. However, despite having no interest and maturity, the dollar still involves duties of performance on the parts of both the Fed and the Treasury. This performance is made manifest in the economy. If the economy is doing well, the dollar is useful, and contract performance is satisfactory or valuable. If the economy is dysfunctional, performance may be thought poor to the point of default under the contract.
And I would also like to add another interesting point as well. Since dollar is a debt, purchases of government securities with money printed by the Federal Reserve account means that the government spending is financed by debts. The question that will follow will be whether this is acceptable or not.
James actually gave some points on that. There are three conditions to be fulfilled for debts to be acceptably used to finance government spending. Firstly, the benefits of the spending must be greater than the cost, and the spending must be directed at projects at the private sector and which they cannot carry out, and the overall debt level must be sustainable. All conditions must be satisfied independently.
Okay, but how can the sustainability of debt level can be measured? Well, we can take a look on the explanation of the primary deficit sustainability framework here. So the conclusion is, if PDS shows unsustainability and it doesn't seem to go away anytime soon, the market may suddenly and unexpectedly actually cause the interest rate to soar, making PDS further less sustainable. The cycle may eventually cause the system to collapse, something that actually James concerned about.
Unsustainable debt may be seen as the cause of demise of money. It makes so much sense, right, if you think about it. But then, if you recall, in the next chapter, James discussed about IMF being the cause of the death of money. But as we all know, IMF is an organization that tried to resolve concern, that try to control the monetary system. How does IMF lead to the demise of money?
I think back to the main point, it stems from James' belief that if other currency can take the place of the dollar as the world's reserve currency, the international monetary system may potentially collapse. On the other hand, the IMF makes no secret of its ambitions to transform the SDR into a reserve currency that could replace the dollar. Beyond the SDR bond market creation, the IMF blueprint goes on to suggest that the IMF could change the SDR basket composition to reduce the weight given to the US dollar and increase the weight of other currencies. With its diverse leadership, leveraged balance sheet, and the SDR, the IMF is poised to realize its one world, one bank, one currency vision and exercise its intended role as central bank of the world. The next global liquidity crisis will shake the stability of the international monetary system to its core, and it may also be the catalyst for the realization of the IMF vision. The SDR is the preferred pretender to the dollar's throne.
For the same reason, James went on to discuss gold standards as the ideal monetary system and even said that there was no paper currency that would come close to replacing the dollar as the leading reserve currency in less than 10 years. Gold has no maturity risk because there is no future date when gold will mature into gold. Gold also has no counterparty risks because it is an asset to the holder. But gold is not anyone else's liability. No one issues gold away a note is issued. Once gold is in a holder's possession, it has no risk related to the clearance or settlement. Banks may fail, exchanges may close, and the peace may be lost. But these events have no impact on the intrinsic value of gold, and this is why gold is the true risk-free asset.
Yes, that's a great explanation. Now, from this book, it can be concluded that James believes portion of US dollar as the monetary reserve currency will actually end sooner or later, and it will be caused by three factors. Firstly, the world money or SDR, the gold standard, and as well as the social disorder. He also believes that the policymakers, the economists, the central banks are shutting their eyes to the realities of this market. This will eventually lead to the collapse of financial system. Do you agree with Afrol's stand?
I think his opinion may not be necessarily true. The dollar share of central bank reserves may fall as much as 10 to 15 percentage points in the coming years without threatening its role as the world's main reserve currency.
Well, that's actually a valid point there, Tesla. Then how is your opinion about the book itself? Maybe about the writing style and other stuff?
I would say that this is an interesting book that is written in a captivating and simple style by James Rickards. Despite the technical nature of the topics of the book also tells the interesting combination of stories and past history that shows how the monetary system worldwide is not something that is infallible. For those readers who would like to understand more about the international monetary system, how it works and what kind of economic science that should be aware of and what kind of portfolio that should be considered under several unfavorable economic conditions, The Death of Money can be a suitable book that offers explanations and solutions to the pressing problems that the world is currently facing.
Okay, so thank you Adinda for your opinion. Before we close today's session, anyone here wants to share about the key takeaways or the lessons learned from this book? Maybe something that we haven't discussed earlier. Is there anything, guys?
So, for millennials out there who are more than willing to take risks and willing to actively manage the portfolio in this book, James Rickards suggests an optimal combination of wealth preservation under conditions of inflation, deflation, and social disorder. A portfolio of 20% gold, 20% land, 10% fine arts, and 20% of alternative funds such as hedge funds, and 30% cash. It would always be better to preserve wealth through the portfolio of assets.
Okay guys, thanks for coming. I hope you all learned something today and hope to see you guys in the next session of Bye!